Today, we're going to go through the basics of 3D tracking in After Effects. If you want to skip through to a certain topic, be sure to use the timestamps. Now this is going to be a beginner-friendly tutorial. We'll go from start to finish, so we'll import your clip, create a new composition, track your clip, and then we'll cover what actually happens when After Effects analyzes your clip, because I think it's important to know this so then you can better understand how to capture good 3D trackable footage of your own. And then we'll track some text into the clip, and then I'll show you some compositing tricks to make sure your track text looks like it's actually composited in the scene. So let's get into it. So I've got After Effects open here. I'm just going to go up here, grab my clip, drag it in here to import it. Then we're going to drag this clip onto this little icon here. This should create a new sequence, the same frame rate, size, and length of our clip. Now this clip is a drone shot I took from one of my shoots. It's orbiting from low to high around the center here of this field. Quite a complex shot, but because it's quite smooth and there's a lot of detail in the image, it should track really, really well. So to track this footage, we're just going to drag our playhead all the way back to the start. Make sure we have our drone shot selected. Go over to the tracker window. If you don't have the tracker window, make sure you have the panel selected where you want it to go. Click window, go down to tracker and click tracker. After that's done, click track camera and it should start tracking. So it's going to analyze your footage. Sweet, that just finished tracking. Let's talk about what happens when After Effects analyzes your footage. So After Effects doesn't know that this is a drone shot. It doesn't know there's a field in here. It doesn't know there's a guy running, anything like that. This is just a 2D image to After Effects. So what it does is it needs to analyze your clip frame by frame. So how it does that is it goes through and it actually adds all these tracking points all over the image on all the high contrast sort of sharp points. So all of the cones here, corners of the lines, everywhere like that. And then it goes to the next frame and it adds all those same points back in before looking to put in new points in there. And what it's doing is it's measuring how far each point has moved between frames. Because you'll notice that these points here, they move a lot further than say this point where my marker is here. It's almost not moving at all. And equally these points at the back here are moving a lot further than this point in the middle. Then it starts using that data to create a 3D camera that mimics the movement of the drone. So why is it important to know all this? So now we know how it works, we know how to capture good 3D trackable footage. So number one, we want smooth footage. Obviously we don't want it to be too jerky so it can get consistent information between frames. And then number two, we don't want too much blur in our image. It needs sort of sharp points to track to. So if you've got too much blur, be it from having your aperture too wide or motion blur, it can't obviously track consistently to the blurry points around the image. So, I often shoot at a higher shutter speed just so I have no motion blur if I know I'm going to be tracking. Sweet, so with that out of the way, let's go and track something onto this field. So we'll go through here and we want to track some text, say into the middle of this field. And you'll notice that while I hover over here, it's constantly changing and selecting 3 points at a time to create a plane. That's what that target is. If I go up here, it starts changing the orientation of the plane, but we want to track to the field. So I'm just going to click there, or maybe not those points, maybe there. Right click and create text. So that's going to create a separate text layer here. And this text layer is now a 3D layer. So if I go here, push play, you'll notice that the text layer is actually tracked pretty well to the field. But we want to change that orientation to line up so it looks like it's on the field. So these handles here, change the orientation. Just click and drag these. You can twist, turn, and these handles here can change the position of it in 3D space. So if I dragged it over here, and then push play, obviously the text is sort of hanging up above where he's running right now, which is not what we want. So I'm going to undo that. So we've got it back there. We want to position it sort of in the middle of the field. So I'll go somewhere over here. I'll turn this over to there, pull it up here, drag over there, and maybe we'll just change the text to something like 3D track. Click on that, push S, scale it down a little bit, and sweet. Now we have a perfect 3D track on the field. But it doesn't look like it's in our scene yet. We've got two problems. So number one is the text is too bright. You notice that the lines, you know, they're obviously painted over the grass, so they wouldn't be perfectly white. So we need to take this. A little easy trick that I do is just push T, drop the opacity down to something like 80, so it gets a little bit more see-through. And then the second thing is you'll notice on these frames, the pole is actually in the way. But that's easy. We just create a mask around the pole and cover the text over those few frames. So to do that, I'm going to select my drone shot. I'm first going to go and to the point where it starts clipping, which is here. So once we're at the start there, I'm actually going to duplicate the drone shot. Then I'm going to Control-Shift-D, which splits this duplicated layer, and delete this left side. I'm going to go through to when the pole goes off the track, Control-Shift-D and delete that one, and then drag it over the top of the 3D track and go back to the start of the mask, which is here. I'm going to go up to the pen tool, and then I'm just going to create a basic 4-point mask over the light pole. That's it. Then we're going to come here to masks, go to mask path. It's going to create one single keyframe. And then we're going to go through to the end of the clip. I'm going to see if we can get lucky, see if it does it all in one go. Then click off and then click the mask again, and it should let us drag the whole thing in one go. Yeah, beauty. Sweet. Realign it there. No, it doesn't line up perfectly, so we have to edit it. So hold Shift, click once on this bottom corner, let go, and then move that. And we should be able to move that by itself, and that's created another keyframe over there. So let's just check that our mask works. So I'll go through. Oh, I need to do it once. Look at that. Sweet. Perfect. The only thing I would do, because there's a bit of motion blur on the pole, I'm going to go to the mask feather and just add 5. So it adds a bit of a feather for the mask around that, so that there's a little bit of a transition between the mask there. So go through, we'll just have a look at that, and there we have it. Our 3D track is composited in the scene, and there you have it, a nice clean track. So that is the basics of 3D tracking in After Effects. If you like that tutorial or you learned something, please consider liking and subscribing. Also follow me on my other socials on Instagram and TikTok, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.